And one of the hardest calls that I've had to make in the 18 years of running the company.
Very difficult decision.
Tough decision.
We have been a lot of changes very quickly in the macroeconomic environment.
We're in a very rapidly changing economic environment.
In some ways, these layoffs are a bit proactive. I mean, some of them have said we're doing this now so that we never have to do this again.
You're fired. No. I'm not saying that to you. This is what lakhs of employees have been hearing over the second half of 2022 as a result of the global mass layoff by tech companies. One day they had a nice job with great perks, and the next day, nothing. Unemployment. But how did this drastic change happen and why? This is exactly what we will discuss in our video today. In today's video, we will talk about the mass layoffs by tech companies. Layoffs are having an impact on the entire tech industry, and the phenomena is global. Some of the most high-profile examples of mass layoffs in 2022 include Meta, the social media giant that faces competition from upstarts like TikTok, as well as a pool of ad dollars that is shrinking in the face of a faltering economy. Although this reduction in headcount is painful for Meta, it's worth considering a more broad perspective. In close to 2 decades of doing business, these will be the company's first wide-scale job cuts.
I think the clock struck midnight for Facebook. You're seeing significant growth challenges, and now they're cutting costs, especially with this metaverse strategy, which is a risky bet. And I think for Zuckerberg, this is going to be what I'll view as a moment of truth, how he navigates this.
Next up is Twitter. Even though Meta wins with sheer volume of cuts, Twitter's mass layoffs are surely the most dramatic. By the way, did you check out our latest video about Twitter? If not, then the link's in our bio. Go have a look. Well, coming back to this video. In early November, the company's new owner Elon Musk slashed 50% of the workforce, and soon after, thousands of contractors also suddenly lost their jobs. Estimating how many employees remain at the company will be a challenge until the dust settles. Layoffs are not just confined to the United States. India's sizable tech sector is also facing cuts. EdTech giant Byju's laid off 2,500 employees in October, around 5% of its total workforce. The high-end workout equipment company Peloton has also been dropping its headcount throughout this year.
We're all about to get fired. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
But now the big question arises. Why are so many companies in the tech sector, even the ones still generating big profits, laying off employees? Well, the reasons are obviously going to be specific to each individual company, but there are a couple of big themes that are impacting the Silicon Valley and beyond. The first one being the pandemic hiring frenzy. In many ways, this major round of layoffs is fixing a previous mistake. During the pandemic years, our online lives became our only lives. Online shopping became not just a growing retail outlet, but the only retail outlet. Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other myriad streaming services took the place of not just the cinema, but also night outs at a restaurant, workday lunch breaks, and date nights. Despite the global turmoil, this upsurge in online activity led to a boon for tech companies. They pulled in record levels of revenue, which created record profits and fueling a hiring frenzy that drove big salaries and benefits for engineers, developers, and other tech workers. Many tech companies believed that this was the beginning of a new normal, with almost every office worker in the world shifting to work from home. There was a massive change in the way we lived our lives. Because they expected this shift to become permanent, tech companies hired accordingly. They expanded their teams, created new ones, and generally grew very fast. Most of these companies hired even more workers than they thought would need for a sustained level of higher usage. Now that the things are back to normal, it's time for them to mend their mistakes, which means laying off employees. Another reason is the economic situation and a potential recession. Now, this situation wouldn't necessarily be a major concern if the growth perspectives were healthy in tech. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong was one of the earliest to call out the arriving recession in the US, with Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and many others following suit in recent months. A recession would mean lower consumer spending and, most importantly for many tech firms, lower advertising spending. At the recent Q3 earnings call, Meta mentioned this specifically, stating that they expected Q4 and early 2023 advertising revenue to be softer than it has been. With these headwinds on the horizon, tech companies need to rein in their spendings to ensure they get through the volatile periods safely, and one way to do so is to lay off employees.
It is extremely stressful being in that ambiguous state, being in feeling really vulnerable and really helpless.
Companies trying to regain their profitability is another reason for the layoffs. After strong growth during the pandemic began to stagnate, the companies are now slimming down to regain their profitability. Goldman Sachs research points out that higher interest rates and tighter financial conditions disproportionately impact the sector because tech companies' profits are typically expected further out in the future and therefore subject to greater duration risk. Investors are not quite happy with the extravagant spending. Investors have also piled on the pressure to cut out costs, accusing firms of being bloated and slow to respond to signs of a slowdown. In an open letter to Alphabet, the parent company of Google and YouTube, activist investor Sir Christopher Horn urged the firm to slash jobs and pay. Alphabet had to be more disciplined about costs, he wrote, and cut losses from projects like its self-driving car company Waymo. Elon Musk is certainly of the view that there is room to cut costs at his latest investment, Twitter, which has struggled to either turn a profit or attract new users. Added to that, many commentators argue that Mr. Musk paid over the odds for the firm, and the pressure is on to make his investment worthwhile. He laid off half the firm's employees, and for those who remain, an extreme work ethic is promised. Industry watcher Scott Kessler also said that there is less tolerance for the big spending on high-tech gambles like virtual reality or driverless cars that may not pay off in the short term. Investors also see the high wages and cushy perks in the industries as unsustainable. Now the big question: what do these job cuts mean for the economy? At face value, widespread layoffs in the tech sector might appear to be a bad omen for the wider economy, especially given the outsized influence tech companies have on the markets. Thankfully, this does not appear to be the case. Payroll and wage data from the US government have exceeded expectations, and the country's unemployment rate is close to a half-century low. So, what is all this chaos about? First off, tech jobs only account for less than 3% of total employment in America. As well, tech workers who've lost their jobs have a high likelihood of securing a new job in short order. It remains to be seen whether next year will be the peak of job cuts. Employers generally try to avoid letting people go right at the onset of a new year. 1 week into December, TrueUp.io has tracked 7,600 more layoffs. But this is not an entrance into the doom, because the layoffs may also be the start of new businesses as talented staff dumped by big firms join or create startups. Hopeful, right? We know. But do you know what gives us hope? It's you, our Volt of Vokes family. So, you know the drill. If you are new here, subscribe to our channel and be a part of our Volt of Vokes community. Like our video and comment down your views. Until we meet next, stay curious, stay awesome. Volt of Vokes, signing off.